number 1 Tennessee at number 3, or excuse me, number 1 Tennessee at number 3 Georgia. Goodness me, now we got to talk college football playoff rankings because I'm already fumbling over this. And we also get to answer this college football question from Ryan Hogan. This is Ryan Hogan 815. Thanks for submitting a question to our College Football on Fox Spaces, brought to you by Wendy's. Is it possible for 3 SEC teams to make the playoff? Georgia beats Tennessee, Alabama beats Georgia in Atlanta, knowing that Georgia is also favored, but number 3, and Tennessee is number 1 for the first time since 1998. How do you see this one going down in Knoxville, Michael?
Man, I am really curious to see how this game plays out for a couple of different reasons. I guess the first reason I'm interested in looking at would be, what does Georgia's pass rush look like without Nolan Smith? You know, Nolan Smith being their leading pass rusher in terms of pressures with 19, a former number 1 overall recruit in the country. And this is a kid who is key to a lot of what they do up front. He's out for the year with a torn pec, I believe it is. And so now, how do they find ways to get pressure on Hendon Hooker? Because if you look at the stats this year, teams aren't really blitzing Hooker a whole lot, just 27% of the time. And why is that the case? Because he's got 338 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns, so he can move a little bit with his feet. But what Georgia does so well under Kirby Smart and co-defensive coordinator Will Muschamp is use these simulated pressures, whether it's stunts or twists or dropping one guy and replacing him with another one. So it looks like a blitz, but it's still really only 4 guys. So I would like to really know how they can get after Hendon Hooker and who they can rely on to get after Hendon Hooker if they do not have, one of their best pass rushers in Nolan Smith.
That's a very good point that you raise. I also think there's an opportunity for us to really start to think about what is the depth looking like at Georgia, right? Because it's not just that Nolan Smith is one of their top pass rushers. It's also, he's one of the leaders on that team and specifically on that defense. As a matter of fact, Kirby Smart went out of his way to say that what that dude provides us from a leadership standpoint actually outweighs his ability on the field. And that's a first-round draft pick for me, playing outside linebacker for the Georgia Bulldogs. I'm also very curious to see how Stetson Bennett holds up against this Tennessee defense. Like, for the first time last week, it felt like I and others got to talk about Tim Banks and the job he's doing at Tennessee as the defensive coordinator for the Volunteers after they held Kentucky to 6. I'm also the first person to point out you gave up more points to UT Martin. And anytime you want to schedule an FCS cupcake and you want to let them score more points than a FBS team, I'm going to remind you of it because I hate that you scheduled that game in the first place, quite honestly. It galls me to no end. But Stetson Bennett has an opportunity to play himself back into not just the Heisman Trophy finalist list, but maybe win a Heisman if he outplays one Hendon Hooker, which is not something I expected to be saying at the start of this season. I don't think anybody expected Tennessee to be in this position, but we all expected Georgia to be here. And now you got the number 1 team coming to your house once again. How do you respond to all of this? I'm very curious to see who are the playmakers and who absolutely puts a mark on this game. Would it be Jalen Hyatt again, like he did against Alabama? Would it be Bryson Young, pass rushing for Tennessee? I don't know. And I'm as thrilled as anybody else to talk about what happens after that game. Thank you for watching the number 1 college football show. Please remember to subscribe to the channel and like this video so that you don't miss any of the best college football coverage in America.